On the day the enemy princess entered the palace, I bestowed upon her a bowl of 5 poisoned soup. His Majesty flew into a rage, publicly slapped me across the face, seized my imperial seal, and declared he would dethrone the empress. But this was precisely what I desired. Having been reborn, who cares about being empress? What I covet is that dragon throne. Xiaoyu returned from his southern campaign, bringing back the princess of the Nanzhao kingdom. He had destroyed her nation and slaughtered her kin, yet he loved her with a passion that ran deep. Among the 3,000 beauties of the harem, he favored only one. And that Princess Yunxu, filled with hatred, remained by her enemy's side, only to be consumed by the lavish favors showered upon her. Arrogant and tyrannical, she orchestrated the death of Consort Yin, born of a military family, exterminating the entire Yin clan. For the Yin family's army had led the campaign against Nanzhao, she sought vengeance. She poisoned pregnant consorts and killed young imperial princes, fueled by her hatred for the great Xiao royal house. Later, she conceived only to miscarry. And all evidence pointed to me. When no one was around, she said, when His Majesty marched south, why didn't you Wang family, as censors, stop him? You all deserve to die. Her stunning face was twisted with cruelty. Using the power granted by her enemy, she vented her hatred upon the innocent women of the harem. That day, Xiaoyu ordered the empress to be deposed, had my father and brothers beheaded, and exiled the entire Wang clan. Half a month later, he overruled all objections and insisted on making Yunxu empress. Years of bloody purges within the court bred discontent among the ministers and stirred unrest across the land. As rebel forces besieged the city, he poured out his love with tender devotion. I know Consort Yin did not poison you, and I know you were never pregnant. I also know that Lady Lin, Consort Han, and the 2 young princes, all were your doing. I know everything. Yet I care not. As long as my Yin is happy, what does it matter if I give up the entire world? He knew every trick she played, tolerating all her whims. He indulged her slaughter of consorts and framing of loyal ministers, all to win a single smile from his beloved. Such profound devotion finally moved Princess Yunxu to tears. They embraced amidst mountains of corpses and seas of blood. In the tale's end, Xiaoyu quelled the war, and Yunxu finally abandoned vengeance for love, vowing to stay by his side forever. As for me, starved and frozen, I perished in the cold palace. I died in bitter resentment. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day Yunxu entered the palace. Xiaoyu had waited all day in the Changel Hall. Only at dusk did he come to the Jiaofeng Hall. Rejected by Yunxu, he sought solace in my palace. Every time in my past life had been like this. Even gathering the world's rarest treasures could not win a single smile from the fair one. Yet the emperor, supreme ruler of the realm, suffered repeated defeats at her hands. He lavished all his tenderness and forbearance upon her, only to vent his pent-up fury upon the entire harem. He would summarily execute palace maids or depose consorts, plunging the entire harem into a reign of terror. Just as now, his face was grim, his entire being radiating exhaustion and malevolence. He propped his head on his hands and sighed before a table laden with delicacies. After 7 years of marriage, I knew him too well. When troubled, he never spoke first, waiting only for me to ease his worries. Your Majesty, are you troubled by Princess Yunxu? As he wished, I spoke first. His eyes held deep weariness as he frowned and said, Empress, Yun is young, with a pure heart and a fiery spirit. This palace is full of deceit and intrigue. I fear she may suffer injustice. As the mistress of the harem, I entrust her care to you. I do not wish for anything to happen to her within these walls. The implication was clear, any misfortune befalling Yunxu henceforth would fall squarely upon my shoulders. Your Majesty may rest assured. This servant shall not fail in her duty. Beneath the glow of 9-branched lamps, I lifted my brows and smiled, my expression obedient and gentle. He nodded with satisfaction. Thank you, Empress. In this world, you understand me best. I slowly poured myself a cup of aged Luzhou liquor. The fiery spirit burned my throat, yet a cold smile curled within my heart. Of course I understand. After several cups, his palm covered the back of mine. Tonight, I shall go nowhere. I shall stay and keep you company. No sooner had the words left his lips than a chamberlain from Changel Hall arrived with news. Princess Yunxu was refusing food in protest. He set down his chopsticks and rushed out immediately. Stepping outside the hall, I gazed up at the clear night sky, a sea of stars spread across the heavens. Unnoticed in this moment, among the 5 stars of the north, the radiance of the purple micro-emperor star gradually dimmed. I raised my cup in toast to the heavens. This imperial throne should rightfully belong to the most capable. Before news of His Majesty bringing back the Princess of Nanzhao had spread throughout the harem, I took 2 actions. Citing a delayed morning greeting, I confined consort Yinli to her quarters. Then, I sent Princess Yunshu a bowl of 5 poisoned soup. No stir came from the Palace of Everlasting Joy, but Yinli arrived at my door within moments. Could it be that Her Majesty, the Empress, resents the Emperor's favor toward a new favorite and is taking it out on the concubines? She wore a scarlet gown, a peony hairpin adorning her hair, radiating an air of nobility, bold and radiant. Seeing her again after 2 lifetimes, I stared blankly at the person I once loathed most, my eyes unexpectedly stinging. We were mortal enemies who fought since childhood, competing over everything from sugar figurines and pastries to dresses and hairpins. After entering the palace, she felt overshadowed by me and never conceded defeat. Yet, during the autumn hunt in my past life, when Xiaoyu rushed to protect Yunshu and left me alone in the mountains, it was she who galloped to my rescue. With a spear in hand, she snatched my life from the tiger's jaws. A daughter of a military family, no matter how willful and capricious, her heart remains upright and righteous. I absolutely cannot let her repeat that mistake. In my past life, Yunshu was poisoned after drinking sweet soup from Yinli Palace. Xiaoyu ordered a thorough search of the Chonghua Hall, unexpectedly uncovering evidence of the Yin family's collusion with the enemy. Looking back now, it was all part of Yunshu's scheme. If that is the case, then this poison shall be administered by my own hand. Seeing my prolonged silence, Yinli grew impatient. Your Majesty, do you admit you are in the wrong? I composed myself, lifting the corners of my lips as I had when we bickered in the past, raising an eyebrow at her. Attendance. Consort Yin has insulted the Empress and behaved improperly before the palace. Add 3 months to her confinement, she shall be confined to her quarters for half a year. She was skilled in martial arts, and ordinary palace maids couldn't restrain her. So I summoned a full 10 eunuchs. She stamped her foot in fury. Wang Ning, you're unreasonable. You're bullying me with your power. Thus, the eunuchs were beaten until their faces were black and blue, but they finally managed to carry the consort Yin out together. By the hour of news finally arrived from the Changel Palace. Princess Yunshu had been poisoned. The grand hall was filled with a sea of kneeling physicians and palace attendants. Useless fools! If you cannot save Yun, I shall have you all buried with her. He roared, standing dazed and distraught before Yunshu's bed. Tinglan, the maid who had followed from Nanzhao, knelt abruptly. Princess Yunshu consumed nothing tonight. She only drank the soup sent by Her Majesty the Empress, and then this happened. Xiaoyu's face turned ashen. His icy gaze swept toward me. What kind of soup was it? I bowed slightly, responding calmly, it was the 5 poisoned soup. Smack! A stinging blow landed on my cheek. The impact sent dizziness reeling through me, my legs buckling as I teetered toward the candlestick. At the critical moment, a pair of strong hands seized me, yanking me back just in time to steady myself. Turning, I saw Yinli. Poisonous harlot! Xiaoyu's eyes blazed crimson, his gaze so icy it could kill. The Empress has betrayed her duty. Her imperial seal is revoked this very day. Imprison her in the cold palace. Your Majesty, the truth remains unclear. How can you condemn the Empress so swiftly? Even if she did poison someone, the imperial physicians must verify it first. Yinli spoke swiftly, her voice tinged with indignation. But Xiaoyu was deaf to reason now. You defend this poisonous woman? Do you wish to join her in the cold palace? Get out! Yinli refused to relent, about to speak again, when I seized her sleeve. I entered the cold palace as I wished. The dilapidated room was thick with cobwebs, sticky with dried mosquitoes and moths. Stripping off the Empress's robes felt like shedding a heavy burden. Weren't you confined? Why did you go to Changel Hall? I lit a candle, the dust on the table sending a wave of coughing fits my way. Still trying to confine me? Why don't you worry about yourself first, Your Majesty the Empress? Ainli rolled her eyes, searching for a stool to sit on. As her hand brushed against it, a palmful of dust came away. "Hey, the soup you sent over wasn't poisoned, was it?" I shook my head. She sat down, propping her chin on her hand. "When I accompanied my father on campaigns, I saw common folk brew a concoction called Five Venom Soup, made from toads, centipedes, scorpions, geckos, and white flower snakes. It's actually a potent tonic for blood and chi. Only that fool of an emperor would condemn you based on the name alone. But why didn't you explain?" I lit the stove to boil tea. "Within 3 days, the entire capital will know that His Majesty slapped the Empress for a foreign princess, all stemming from a misunderstanding born of his ignorance. To attempt deposing the Empress so rashly will stir unrest among the imperial clan and throughout the court and the realm. This is my first step." "But Yunju was truly poisoned, you know," she questioned doubtfully. The water began to boil. I scooped a pinch of Maojian tea leaves into the pot, and soon the room was filled with the fragrance of tea. "This will require Consort Yin to investigate. If I'm not mistaken, she likely poisoned herself with a herb from Nanzhao. The dose isn't lethal, it will cause illness for 10 days to a fortnight, but death is unlikely. Therefore, it falls to Consort Yin to reveal the truth before the entire court." I chuckled softly, winking at her. She sprang to her feet, ready to storm out. "Why should I? What do I owe you?" A breeze stirred through the courtyard, lifting the aged curtains before settling back down. Shadows danced in the dimly lit room. "Shaoli, do you believe in past lives and reincarnation?" Through the dim, flickering light, I fixed my gaze upon her, calling her by a name untouched for years. 3 days later, His Majesty accidentally drank poisoned tea in the Changle Hall, exhibiting symptoms identical to Princess Yunju's. After repeated examinations, the imperial physicians finally identified it as the poison of the southern Zhao herb. Meanwhile, Ainli sat in the cold palace cracking melon seeds. Didn't he love her to death, wishing he could take her punishment? "I just gave him a dose of Yunju's poison too." I laughed until I was breathless. Truly, the young tyrant of the Yin family, his moves are always extraordinary. Soon after, I was released from the cold palace. After Xiaoyu recovered, he bestowed upon me many gold and silk treasures. It was my misunderstanding, and I have wronged the Empress. I remained as humble and docile as ever. "As long as your Majesty is well, this servant feels no wrong." Half a month apart had left him visibly haggard. Beyond the poison's effects, his recent days in court must have been grueling. The Yin Zhao campaign was the Yin family's foremost achievement. He had intended to elevate old General Yin to Duke of the State, granting him the title of Grand Guardian of the Palace, a nominal promotion concealing a demotion, seizing the opportunity to strip him of military authority. Yet the old General Yin preempted him, submitting a petition to retire on grounds of advanced age. Simultaneously, the young General Yin requested to leave the capital, leading troops to garrison Yunzhou, a frontier plagued by years of unrest. With such unparalleled military achievements and unwavering loyalty, challenging them was impossible. Xiaoyu could only swallow his anger. As long as young General Yin stationed his troops in the northern frontier, Ainli would remain safe within the palace. And all of this was my doing. Because in my previous life, Xiaoyu did indeed succeed in stripping the Yin family of their military power. Consequently, the Yin family later became as helpless as meat on a chopping block, subject to his whims. An entire clan of loyal martyrs met a fate where their heads were severed from their bodies. That night in the cold palace, I called Ainli to me. The notion of rebirth was utterly absurd, yet she believed me. Who could have imagined that after 20 years of bitter rivalry, my sworn enemy would become my ally on the very night I hit rock bottom? Since then, Xiaoyu has been consumed by frustration, his brow furrowed in constant sighs. And my work has only just begun. At the hour of Qin in the Jiaofeng Palace, the consorts were already waiting to pay their respects. I noticed the youngest, Consort Lin, secretly tucking a pastry into her sleeve. Her roommate, Consort Xin, nudged her gently with her elbow. "I told you to rise early so we could have breakfast. You were too lazy to get up." Lin pouted, knowing she was in the wrong, and lowered her head. Seeing this ordinary scene again after a lifetime, my heart felt wistful, and my nose grew slightly sore. They were all still here. How wonderful. No need to be formal. Since you're hungry, eat more. From now on, if you rise early and haven't had breakfast, come to the Jiaofeng Hall to eat. With a smile in my eyes, I nodded for the palace attendants to bring up another tray of tangerine red cakes and lotus seed soup. Lin Marin looked up in delight, revealing her pearly white front teeth. Thank you for your kindness, Your Highness. Her large, round eyes and dimples on her cheeks made her smile utterly charming. Her childlike innocence and spontaneity instantly brightened the hall's atmosphere, prompting everyone to cover their mouths and giggle. Your Highness, do not indulge her too much. Otherwise, she'll stay up late again and be lazy in the morning. Lady Xian shot her a stern look, like an older sister scolding a mischievous younger sister. Xian Jiu came from a scholarly family, well-versed in literature and etiquette. Lin Marin, however, was the only daughter of a southern family of brewers. Though her family background was humble, she was the apple of her family's eye, spoiled since childhood and utterly disinterested in studying. Yet these two girls, so utterly different, lived together as if they were sisters by blood. Perhaps it was because the palace walls were too high, blocking the view of the capital's vastness and splendor. Only by supporting each other did these girls of similar age find some vitality in these seemingly endless years. As everyone dispersed, Lin Marin quietly remained behind, conjuring a jar of wine as if by magic. Your Highness, this is wine I secretly brewed using my father's recipe. It's called Forget Sorrow. Whenever I miss home, just one jar makes all my troubles vanish. So I bring it to you as a gift. Her eyes shone brightly as she spoke with earnest sincerity. I found myself both amused and touched. She was comforting me over my unjust confinement in the cold palace. A young girl like her might not understand the complexities of the world, knowing only to offer pure sincerity to those who treated her with genuine kindness. I laughed heartily. I too once cherished wine above all else. For this, I truly thank you, little sister. Only after seeing me accept the gift did she depart, her face beaming with joy. Now my desk was piled high with gifts, Xianjiu's handwritten copy of the Cicada Ode, Consort Han's specially blended perfume, and Lady Lin's wine. None of them mentioned my humiliation, yet each offered small gestures of kindness with careful sincerity. Yet to Xiaoyu, these very women were nothing but scheming, vulgar courtesans, ugly, jealous poisonous women. It was he who selected them for the palace, tearing families apart. Yet he could watch them with indifference as they withered under Yunju's hand, all to satisfy his unrestrained favoritism. Given a second chance, then, everything could be changed, couldn't it? News that Empress Xiaoyu nearly lost her throne over the southern Zhao princess spread throughout the court and the realm. During the morning audience, ministers petitioned that Yinshu was a demonic harbinger of national ruin, imploring His Majesty to execute her. Meanwhile, in the inner palace, I knelt before the Empress Dowager's bed to receive her reprimand. The Emperor's actions may be reckless, but ultimately, it is your failure as Empress that bears responsibility. That he favors a foreign woman is one thing, your lack of counsel is forgivable. But not a single lady in the 3 palaces and 6 courts could capture his heart. How have you managed the harem? In this old woman's view, it is time to select new consorts for the Emperor. Only fresh faces within these walls can divert that demoness' favor. I listened in silence for a long while, recalling how in my past life, she always ordered me to admonish the Emperor and rebuke Yinshu, yet never once stepped forward herself, fearful of losing her beloved son's affection. This mother and son truly are alike. But there are already enough wretched souls trapped within these palace walls. Why imprison more innocent women in this cage? I bowed my head, humbly prostrating myself. Your Majesty's admonition is wise. Yet, with years of warfare and the frontiers still unsettled, expanding the harem through a new selection now may only invite criticism and deepen discontent throughout the court and the realm. Your humble son has a plan to ease your Majesty's concerns, but it requires an imperial decree. Upon leaving Xiaoyun Palace, I bypassed my quarters and proceeded directly to Xianjing Hall. Given Xiaoyu's temperament, the more the court and the harem unite to pressure him, the more he will cling to the belief that his bond with Yinshu is stronger than gold, a love incomprehensible to the vulgar masses. Attempting to separate lovebirds will only backfire. As the ancients said, blocking is worse than channeling. Upon entering the hall, I found Xiaoyu brandishing his sword at an elderly minister with streaks of gray at his temples. This was the current chancellor of the Secretariat, and also the grandfather of Consort Han. Your Majesty, please reconsider. I stepped before the old man, grasping the sword's blade with my hand. Blood dripped onto the red stone steps. Xiao Yu's eyes brimmed with fury. This is the heart of the imperial court. When did it become your place to be here, you mere woman of the harem? I present the Empress Dowager's imperial decree. I enter by command. Should this servant overstep her bounds, your majesty may punish me without complaint. But a pillar of the court must not be slain. Killing one man is easy, calming the hearts of the people is hard. I beg your majesty to sheath your sword. I have my own way to protect the one dearest to your heart. His gaze flickered with alarm and doubt, but slowly, he sheathed his sword. As I departed, I glanced back at the court filled with loyal ministers who had risked their lives to plead, and at the dragon throne. Today, in the grand hall, I saved the venerable elder minister. From this day forward, what I shall gain will not merely be the title of a virtuous empress. Rather, it shall be loyalty, courage, benevolence, and righteousness, qualities that do not yield to any man. My destination draws ever nearer. That very noon, I dispatched my personal maid to leave the palace and deliver a message to my maternal home. I requested my father and brothers to strongly advocate tomorrow during court for the benefits of retaining Princess Yunju. Bringing a foreign princess into the harem would demonstrate our dynasty's magnanimity while soothing the hearts of the remnant people of Nanzhao. As for this empress and the royal house behind me, we are magnanimous and proper. For the sake of His Majesty, we would never quibble over trivial matters. The next day, after court, Xiao Yu came to my Jiaofeng hall in high spirits. Truly, the empress is understanding. She commanded the imperial father-in-law to resolve this difficult matter for me. I must bestow a generous reward. I humbly prostrated myself. My father already holds the rank of first-class duke. To bestow further honors would be impossible to justify before the court. However, Minister Han of the Secretariat, who was startled in the palace hall, deserves special consideration to demonstrate your majesty's magnanimity. My words were flawless. Xiao Yu gazed at me for a long moment before bursting into laughter. The empress is indeed virtuous. Very well. I've heard Minister Han has a grandson skilled in martial arts. Grant him a position within the capital's garrison. Xiao Yu is harsh and ungrateful, with a naturally suspicious nature. All these years, my father has held only a title, no real power. He won't grant genuine authority over this matter. To seek an official post now would only arouse his suspicion. What he doesn't know is that Consort Han and the Han family have become my other allies. Xiao Yu, undaunted by public condemnation, defied the minister's pleas for the deep-seated affection of Yunju. Yet she remained unmoved. When he faced rebuff from her, he would sulkily seek out other concubines' chambers, provoking her jealousy. At this time in my previous life, he had showered exclusive favor upon Consort Xian for a full month. Later, Consort Xian conceived and gave birth to the palace's first imperial prince. Yet on the third day after the young prince's birth, Yunju appeared in the bright moon hall, snatched him from his cradle, and threw him to his death. Afterward, she hid in Xiao Yu's embrace, weeping as her limp fists pounded his chest. I thought I didn't care. But when I saw you with another woman, I couldn't control my jealousy. I couldn't bear to watch you have children with someone else. Xiao Yu, I hate you so much. And I hate myself even more. Xiao Yu embraced her joyfully, soothing her with gentle words. Ayun, I knew you still held me in your heart. Rest assured, from now on, I will love only you. I will have children only with you. That night, as storms raged with thunder and lightning, within the warm chamber bathed in bright lamps, they were deeply entwined, inseparable. Meanwhile, Consort Xian, having lost her infant son, wept with heart-wrenching anguish. The young prince's death was ultimately ruled an accident. Xiao Yu executed the wet nurse for negligence, and the matter was settled. That very night, Consort Xian took a dagger to Yunju's chambers. Born into a distinguished scholarly family, she was well-read, gentle, and courteous, yet also the most upright and uncompromising. She bitterly denounced Xiao Yu as incompetent and tyrannical, angrily berating Yunju for betraying her honor by submitting to her enemy. Though she spoke of vengeance, she dared only to wield her blade against the weak. Xiao Yu stood before Yunju, showing no remorse. I am the one who wronged you, not Ayun. This child was a mistake from the start, a mistake born of my pettiness with Ayun. I will compensate you by elevating you to consort. Cease this commotion. In the end, consort Exile lay stabbed multiple times, her body carried out. Rain washed the blood from the stone steps outside Changle Hall. Just as it would wash away every concubine who later died by Yinju's hand, cleansed in an instant, as if they had never existed, leaving no trace. Every time they came together or parted, it was at the cost of another's life. But none of this would happen again in this lifetime. For Xiao Yu would bear no more children in this life. The autumn hunt approached, and the assassins from Nanzhao would arrive as scheduled. In the previous life, they had come to kill on Yinju's orders. Yet at the last moment, she changed her mind, aiding Xiao Yu's escape and luring the assassins toward the camp. The price was the slaughter of every royal woman left behind in the camp. When the Imperial Guard arrived, countless loyal assassins fell beneath their blades. Back then, Xiao Yu left me behind in the mountains. I watched them ride away together, saw her eyes brimming with tears, and felt a pang of self-pity, so even at the very end, I couldn't bear to see him die. The corpses littering the ground, hundreds of lives, including those loyal assassins, were merely tools to prove her resolve. Yunju, my dear Yunju, since you relish assassination, I shall lend you a hand. On the day of the hunt, I used the summer heat as an excuse to stay off the field. After Yinli mocked me thoroughly, she turned and mounted her horse, declaring she would claim first place today. Your servant has heard that the subjects of Nanzhao, regardless of age or gender, excel in both riding and archery. Might your majesty permit me to compete with Consort Yun? She wore a crimson riding outfit, radiating a heroic spirit reminiscent of her days galloping across battlefields alongside her father. Xiao Yu was in a good mood today. Though Yinju still wore a cold expression, she offered no objection and mounted her horse as well. The three departed with the feathered forest guards. My men, positioned as instructed, were ready to act. At the first quarter past noon, a signal flare shot skyward, Yinju's signal. Moments later, hundreds of black-clad assassins burst from the dense woods, their gleaming blades flashing in the sunlight, blindingly bright. But this time, I was prepared. Beyond the Imperial Guard, soldiers from the City Defense Battalion were stationed along the mountainside. And leading the troops today was none other than the young master of the Han family, the Chancellor of the Secretariat. I had sent word early this morning, ordering him to lead his men up the mountain. After fierce fighting, half the assassins were cut down. Dozens escaped wounded, and at my instruction, Captain Han deliberately spared some lives. Escort them back to the capital for now and hand them over to the Supreme Court. Remember to extract their teeth, to prevent poison from being concealed within, I commanded. Yes, Your Excellency. The handsome young Master Han knelt on one knee, his swollen eye fixed on Lady Lin behind me. During the earlier skirmish, it was he who had appeared like a divine soldier, rescuing Lady Lin as she lay drunk, dreaming of Zhou Gong. But when she sobered up, she mistakenly took him for a bandit and punched him squarely in his handsome face. I chuckled inwardly, bad luck for him. Under the tree shade, the chessboard was missing just one piece. The net was about to close. By evening, Xiao Yu finally returned. As expected, he was carried back. He bore several deep knife wounds, his injuries severe. Yin Li was also wounded. Rest assured, she won't die. Her lips were pale, clearly from excessive blood loss, yet she still insisted on putting on a brave front. How could I possibly wash my hands of this without getting hurt myself? Indeed, if she emerged unscathed, it would inevitably arouse suspicion. But the price paid was steep. Her pretty face was lacerated by branches, leaving jagged cuts. Though the wounds were shallow and wouldn't scar, the sight was comical. She looked like a spotted cat. I held her hand, my heart heavy with conflicting emotions, unsure how to speak. What are you staring at? Hurry up and get me something to eat. I'm starving. Remember this, you owe me a huge favor. You'll have to listen to me from now on. She chattered on. Shut up already. I had medicinal food brought to feed her, then treated her wounds with medicinal wine. The pain made her hiss sharply as she sucked in cold air. Meanwhile, in Xiao Yu's main tent, the imperial physicians who had accompanied him crowded around, each with cold sweat beading on their foreheads, trembling uncontrollably. What made them even more afraid to speak than the loss of arms or legs was that our emperor had been wounded in a vital area. It was feared he might struggle to have children in the future. After returning to the palace, Xiaoyu lay unconscious for a full fortnight. Upon awakening, his first words were about Yunju's whereabouts, struggling to rise and seek her out. Consort Yun conspired with remnants of the southern Zhao to assassinate your majesty. She has been confined to the inner palace awaiting punishment, the eunuch replied cautiously, his voice trembling. Nonsense! He roared, smashing a cup and pushing away the eunuchs supporting him as he lunged toward the exit. It's true, your majesty. The assassins have confessed. He raged inside for a long while, refusing to calm down. The chief physician entered for a follow-up examination and painfully delivered the devastating news: he would never have children. Enraged, he immediately ordered the physician's execution. How dare you curse the emperor? Have you grown tired of living? Just as he was about to unleash a bloodbath, I invited the Empress Dowager to come in. She entered with measured steps. What are you doing, my son? Even if you slaughtered the entire Imperial Medical Bureau, what good would it do? Having weathered far greater storms, the Empress Dowager remained remarkably composed compared to Xiaoyu's fury and panic. You are still young. This injury may not be beyond cure. In my humble opinion, there are many skilled practitioners among the common folk. Why not send envoys to secretly seek out masters? There might still be a way. Her words were earnest, her demeanor that of a devoted mother. She further admonished me, this matter must never be divulged. I obediently agreed. But on that day at Lanshang Mountain, when the imperial guards carried him back, countless eyes, ministers and imperial relatives alike, witnessed that arrow piercing his vital spot. The news that needed spreading had already spread. Moreover, when faced with overwhelming power, even a mother and son must make choices. The Empress Dowager has more than one son. Compared to Xiaoyu, she favors her youngest son, the Prince of Yong. If my guess is correct, the messenger bearing the order to Yongzhou will depart the capital tonight. And by the hour of the water clock, the secret guards I dispatched should have succeeded. The next day, the Empress Dowager's envoy was found dead 30 li outside the capital. The secret letter he carried was discovered by the city guard and presented before the throne. The rift between mother and son was sealed in that moment. After a fierce argument, the Empress Dowager was confined to the Buddhist hall. Xiaoyu, struck by successive blows, was overcome with anguish. He sat listless, gaunt and haggard. Why? Why did Ayan betray me, and now mother betrays me too? Then, covering his face, he wept bitterly, his tears flowing freely. The arrow that severed his line was tipped with the multicolored mountain finch feather, a specialty of Nanzhao. It was the very arrow that had sealed his bond with Princess Yunshu upon their first meeting. However unwilling he was to believe it, the undeniable truth stood before him. See, he could feign ignorance when she killed his concubines or harmed his children. But when the blade turned against him personally, he couldn't remain indifferent. Xiaoyu, since you love her so deeply, I shall grant your wish, let her sever your line forever. Amid his sobs, he suddenly lifted his head, his hands clenching mine with fierce intensity. Aning, you would never betray me, would you? I kept my gaze lowered, my smile faint. Of course not, your majesty. This servant would never betray you. How could there be betrayal when there was never any loyalty to begin with? That night, he fell asleep in my arms, plagued by nightmares. This pattern continued for months afterward. He lost all interest in reviewing memorials, constantly complaining of headaches. Thus, for months on end, I read the memorials aloud to him until eventually, I began reviewing them myself. Months passed. Though Xiaoyu imposed no punishment on Yunshu, he never saw her again. Yunshu, however, clearly couldn't sit still. For she had never truly shunned him like a venomous snake. If his heart had truly grown cold, how could this tortured love story continue? She fleeing, he pursuing, he showering her with favor, she yearning for her homeland yet unable to control her love for him. In those brief months, she had staged every possible ploy: starvation, drowning, hanging, poisoning, yet Xiaoyu remained utterly unmoved. Until that night of torrential rain, when Yunshu fled the inner palace, barefoot and disheveled, kneeling outside the Jiaofeng Hall, wailing for an audience with His Majesty. Is His Majesty going out? Amid the torrential downpour, Yunshu's voice grew fainter, swallowed by the endless darkness of the night. Inside the hall, I burned mind-clearing incense as he tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Finally, he rose, took my hand, and led me out of the grand hall. Under the eaves, he held my hand and coldly watched the weakened Yunju in the rain. Go back. Don't disturb the emperor and empress's peaceful dreams. As the words fell, Yunju bit her lower lip, her face full of grievance. The gaze she cast my way was venomous and complex. I dutifully held the umbrella for him, gently urging him back inside. As we left, I turned to flash Yunju a defiant smile. Ugh, what a pain. Played the love torture tool again. Compared to the tangled web of palace intrigue, the imperial court had been in upheaval these past months. Xiaoyu had been recuperating for a long time, yet his spirits grew increasingly low, and his health showed no signs of improvement. Compounded by the rampant rumors that the ruler of the nation would forever remain childless, unrest stirred among the imperial clan. Outside the palace halls, veteran ministers knelt in prolonged protest, pleading for His Majesty to issue an edict selecting an heir from among the imperial relatives. Xiaoyu hurled teacups and memorials across the table in fury. These old fools. Every last one a fickle reed, waiting for my death? His rage triggered a violent coughing fit. At such a moment, I naturally avoided drawing attention to myself. I calmly prepared his medicine outside, entering only after his fit had subsided. Empress, he demanded, what should I do? They've all betrayed me. My brothers, my uncles, not a single one is trustworthy. Seeing I have no heir, they all scheme to place their own sons on the throne. Traitors! Rebels! I'll have them all executed. Seeing me, he clung to me as if I were a lifeline. Your Majesty is wise and valiant, the answer already lies within you, does it not? I gently blew on the medicine, my voice soft. Choosing a prince from the imperial clan to succeed you may be a lesser strategy, but it is the only way to calm the people's hearts now. Every member of the imperial family harbors this hope because, before the situation is settled, anyone might seize the opportunity. Once the choice is made, their hearts will settle too. As for who to choose, that rests entirely in your Majesty's hands. Whether it be the Crown Prince of Yong or the Crown Prince of Ding, both are over 10 years old and their fathers are still alive. This will inevitably lead to trouble in the future. His eyes flickered, as if deep in thought. I continued, if we were to select a young child whose father had passed away early, bring him into the palace to be raised, what difference would there be from His Majesty's own flesh and blood? He remained silent, saying nothing. I knew he had heard me. A month later, Xiaoyu issued an edict, selecting the posthumous son of the late Prince of Pingshan to be adopted as heir and established as crown prince. That child was but 4 years old. Shortly after entering the palace, the young prince fell into water and fell gravely ill. Witnesses reported Yunju was by his side at the time. Following palace protocol, I ordered Yunju to receive 20 strokes of the court cane. Her wails filled the air as I sat in the courtyard sipping tea, dispatching someone to summon Xiaoyu. True to form, Xiaoyu flew into a rage. Empress! What have you done? He rushed over, embraced her, and cried urgently, summon the imperial physician. As he carried her away, he didn't forget to bump into me. I sighed wearily. It seems only through the meddling of a wicked woman like me can their endless drama of separation and reunion continue. I squeezed out a few tears, weeping and repenting before Yunju's bed. The physician declared her injuries severe, recommending convalescence outside the palace. A medicinal hot spring bath would greatly benefit her recovery. Without hesitation, Xiaoyu commanded, issue the decree. Depart for the Songshan Summer Palace tomorrow. Before leaving, he shot me a fierce glare. The Empress need not accompany me. Remain in the palace and reflect deeply. Oh, I couldn't ask for more. Once you depart, you may never return. By now, the rebel forces in the south have likely already risen. I ordered word of His Majesty's departure to be spread far and wide, directing the rebels straight to Songshan. On the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, as storms raged over the capital, the emperor found himself besieged by rebels at Songshan. He dispatched envoys seeking aid from neighboring states, yet not a single soldier came to his rescue. As for the imperial garrison forces, faced with the choice between rescuing His Majesty and safeguarding the empire, the ministers all fell silent. With the empire teetering on collapse, I entered the hall of imperial administration with the young prince. His majesty must be saved, yet the capital is the nation's foundation, it cannot be lost. The only hope now lies in summoning the Yin family's army from Yunzhou to march south and aid the throne. At these words, the ministers seemed to swallow a reassuring pill. They prostrated themselves in unison, chanting in unison, "Long live Her Majesty." Wise and brilliant. On the first day of the first lunar month, gloom hung thick over the city. Save for a handful of households that had hung door gods, not a trace of New Year's joy could be seen. News arrived from Songshan. The Yin family army had won a great victory, crushing most of the rebel forces, who fled in disarray. But tragically, His Majesty had been struck by several arrows and could not be saved. I issued an edict ordering the entire city to wear mourning robes and hold a funeral for His Majesty. Simultaneously, I commanded the Capital Patrol Corps to enter the city and guard all palace gates. With Yin's forces outside and the patrol corps within, layered defenses ensured the smooth enthronement of the young prince. I naturally became Empress Dowager, ruling with benevolent oversight. Before Yinli left the palace, she scrutinized my dowager attire with disdain for half a day. "Didn't you covet the throne? Why go to such lengths just to become Empress Dowager?" I smiled, "The time isn't ripe yet. As for you, after we part today, the mountains and rivers lie between us. We may never meet again. Take good care of yourself." Her laughter was unrestrained and carefree, just like the spirited vigor she'd shown when galloping down the streets all those years ago. "Don't worry. If you truly ascend to that throne, I'll return and serve as your general. It's a deal." After court, I descended the stone steps to the prison cell where two figures, their faces now indistinct, were held captive. It was Xiao Yu and Yun Zhu. "On Ning? Quickly rescue me. How dare these traitorous ministers imprison me here?" I smiled faintly, my crimson lips parting softly. "Your Majesty, I come to offer congratulations. The Crown Prince has ascended the throne. He will grant you a grand funeral and posthumous title, the Foolish." "What did you say?" He lunged forward in disbelief, chains clanging against the bars. "All of this was your doing? You orchestrated it all?" I sighed deeply. "Your Majesty always claimed I understood you best, yet you never understood me. I orchestrated such a grand scheme, and you remained utterly unaware. Truly, utterly boring." As if recalling something, I continued calmly under his shocked and furious gaze. "Oh, Your Majesty needn't worry about the sisters in the harem. They're all doing quite well. Consort Xin married the newly crowned third-place scholar. They share common interests and live in perfect harmony. Lin Mei has returned to Jiangnan to inherit her father's business, and for some reason, the young master of the Han family has followed her there. As for Consort Han, after leaving the palace, she's been traveling the world with her beloved, writing travelogues." As I spoke, I lowered my head slightly, drawing nearer, my voice still soft and gentle. "Your Majesty, rest assured. Out of respect for our marriage, this servant will safeguard your empire. After all, the imperial throne belongs to the capable." His eyes bulged, red as if they might bleed. "So you intend to usurp the throne? You poisonous woman. Through past lives and this one, I've grown weary of hearing the words venomous woman. He was the one who slaughtered loyal ministers and concubines, who harmed innocent people. How did I become the venomous one?" I couldn't be bothered to argue. My gaze swept over Yunzhu, cowering in the corner tower. "Since you two are so deeply in love, you may remain here together for the rest of your days. May your Majesty live long enough, for on the day I ascend the throne, I shall invite you both to drink a cup of celebratory wine." I stepped cheerfully out of the prison cell, leaving behind the sound of Xiao Yu banging against the bars and his vicious curses. 2 years later, the young emperor issued an edict abdicating the throne. By then, all 6 ministries were filled with my loyal confidants. Supported by the ministers, I was welcomed as the new emperor. On the day of my coronation, I saw Yinli beneath the city walls, clad in crimson, spear in hand, riding a horse. I extended my hand. "Welcome back, my general of the state." The end.